The man in the chair blinked slowly, methodically, each motion deliberate. It looked natural, like someone adjusting to harsh studio lights. To the Vietnamese guards standing behind the cameras, it meant nothing. But in Washington, it meant everything. Because Jeremiah Denton wasn't just blinking. He was speaking, with his eyes. Speaking a language his captors couldn't understand, a message no one had dared send before. ... Torture. He blinked the word in Morse code over and over during a propaganda interview broadcast on international television. It was the first time in history a prisoner of war had used Morse code to communicate with his own government, while under the watch of enemy captors. It was dangerous, suicidal even. But Denton knew the truth had to get out. He'd been inside their prisons. He'd lived it. The beatings, the starvation, the isolation so deep it threatened to unravel a man's mind. And now he was going to tell the world, even if it killed him. Jeremiah Andrew Denton Jr. had all the makings of a war hero. Born in Mobile, Alabama in 1924, he graduated from the U.S. Naval Academy in 1946, just after World War II ended. He trained as a pilot and rose steadily through the ranks, known for his intelligence, leadership, and deep Catholic faith. He flew carrier-based aircraft and later helped pioneer tactics for nuclear war planning. By 1965, he was a commander leading missions over North Vietnam in the A-6 Intruder, a two-seat twin-engine jet used for long-range bombing. On July 18, 1965, during a mission over Than Hoa, his jet was struck by anti-aircraft fire. He and his bombardier, Bill Chudy, ejected at 4,000 feet and were quickly captured. That moment marked the beginning of 7 years and 7 months in captivity. Denton was taken to Hoa Lo Prison, nicknamed the Hanoi Hilton by U.S. pilots. Despite its almost whimsical nickname, the place was brutal. A decaying French-built prison in the heart of the Vietnamese capital, it became the nerve center of POW confinement, punishment, and propaganda. From the very start, Denton was identified as a high-value target. As a senior officer, the Vietnamese believed he could be broken, that he would give up military intelligence, confess to war crimes, apologize for America's bombing campaign. Instead, he gave them hell. The torture began almost immediately. Sleep deprivation, isolation, shackle torture, where a prisoner's hands and feet were bound tightly, then left in that position for days, beatings with rubber whips or bamboo canes, constant interrogations, food so rotten it carried maggots. They wanted a confession. They got defiance. Denton refused to denounce the U.S. He gave nothing. He coordinated with other POWs using a covert communication system of wall taps and blinks, smuggled messages, and a mental resistance network that spanned prison blocks. His resistance came at a price. The guards beat him savagely. They threw him into solitary, sometimes for months. He lost teeth. His body wasted away. For 4 straight years, he was kept almost entirely alone, his only companions the rats that scurried beneath his cot. Still, he endured. What made it worse was the manipulation. The guards would occasionally improve his conditions, food, clothing, or limited exercise, then try to trade kindness for compliance. They offered him a stage, appear on camera, they said, and tell the world you're being treated well. Give your family peace. Denton knew better. He knew the game. But in 1966, when they brought in a full television crew, put powder on his face, combed his hair, and told him to read from a script, he saw an opportunity. If he could keep a straight face, if he could suppress the pain, if he could just blink at the right intervals, he could say what they couldn't stop, and someone back home might catch it. The interview aired on Japanese television and was later broadcast in the United States. On the surface, Denton looked calm. He sat straight, spoke clearly. He said he was grateful to be treated humanely, that he missed his family and hoped for peace. His words were carefully chosen, seemingly compliant, but his eyelids were screaming. He blinked torture repeatedly in Morse code, sending the message loud and clear to any American trained to see it. The Department of Defense caught it. Navy analysts verified it. The United States now had undeniable proof that American POWs were being tortured in violation of the Geneva Conventions. It changed everything. The Vietnamese had staged the interview as a propaganda win. Instead, it became a turning point in POW resistance and intelligence gathering. But back in Hanoi, Denton's act came at a cost. The retaliation was brutal. He was dragged from his cell, beaten, thrown into punishment camps with no food. Guards doubled their efforts to isolate and break him. At one point, he was shackled in stress positions until his circulation nearly failed. He didn't care. He'd gotten the message out. Still, the years wore on. By the late 1960s, Denton was one of the senior-most officers in the Hanoi Hilton, and his leadership became critical to the morale of other prisoners. He helped maintain a chain of command inside the prison walls, ensuring every captured airman felt part of something bigger. They tapped out instructions, poems, jokes, prayers. They refused to let the Vietnamese win psychologically. Denton's cell became both a tomb and a pulpit. He prayed constantly. When other prisoners lost hope, he whispered encouragement through the walls. He endured 2,765 days in captivity. 2,765 days of humiliation, starvation, punishment. 2,765 nights of staring at peeling walls, wondering if he'd ever see his children again. 2,765 mornings waking up and choosing to resist anyway. Then, in 1973, came the peace agreement. As part of the Paris Accords, the North Vietnamese agreed to release American POWs. Operation Homecoming began in February. When Denton's plane landed at Clark Air Base in the Philippines, reporters gathered to capture the moment. Thin, pale, and worn down to 100 pounds, Denton stepped off the plane and walked to a waiting microphone. He looked straight into the cameras and spoke clearly, with the same quiet resolve he'd carried for nearly 8 years. We are honored to have had the opportunity to serve our country under difficult circumstances. We are profoundly grateful to our Commander-in-Chief and to our nation for this day. God bless America. The soldiers around him broke into tears. Back home, he reunited with his wife Jane and their 7 children. The reunion was joyful, but not without pain. Time had marched on. His children had grown. His absence had left scars. But Denton wasted no time. He retired from the Navy as a rear admiral, then turned his focus to public service. In 1980, he became the first Republican elected to the U.S. Senate from Alabama since Reconstruction. He served 1 term, during which he championed veterans' issues, family values, and a strong national defense. He remained vocal about the treatment of POWs and continued to advocate for those who had suffered in silence. His memoir, When Hell Was in Session, became a bestseller and was later turned into a television movie. To his fellow veterans, he wasn't just a war hero. He was a legend, a man who had faced unspeakable cruelty and blinked truth in the face of it. In 2014, Jeremiah Denton died at the age of 89. His funeral was held in Alabama with full military honors. Among the mourners were fellow POWs, men who had once tapped on his prison wall. They came to say goodbye to a man who had led them not with speeches or medals, but with endurance. And with a blink. Thank you for listening to Last Post History. Subscribe for more true stories from the world at war.